Most people spend their lives believing they understand power. They assume dominance is loud, confidence is visible, and superiority is something you can prove. But nothing destroys a person faster than the belief that strength must be shown. True power does not shout, it doesn't demand attention, and it never reveals itself before the time is right. It moves quietly, deliberately, and with a cold precision that leaves no trace until the game is already over. You lose battles not because you are weak, but because you respond too quickly, reveal too much, and hope too openly. You think honesty wins trust. You think kindness softens hearts. You think transparency builds respect. But the world is not shaped by intentions, it is shaped by perception. And perception is a battlefield where only the disciplined survive. Every moment you explain yourself, every time you react emotionally, every time you try to justify your choices, you give pieces of yourself away. Dominance is lost not in confrontation, but in the subtle surrender of your inner world. You can watch people and learn everything you need to know about them long before they ever speak. Their ego fights to be seen. Their insecurity begs for validation. Their unresolved cravings leak from their body language. They are open books dressed as mysteries. And because they don't understand themselves, they cannot hide anything from someone who does. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. The one who controls appearances controls outcomes. He didn't mean you should pretend. He meant you should master the art of not letting your impulses run your life. He meant you should understand that emotional discipline is the greatest weapon a human being can possess. The Stoics said the same thing in different words. If you are controlled by emotion, you are controlled by others. Control your emotion, and you control your reaction. Control your reaction, and you control the situation. Control the situation, and you control the people in it. Most people fail right at the beginning. They want to be liked, accepted, praised, understood. This desire is exactly what makes them easy to read, easy to predict, and easy to manipulate. Look at the people around you. The ones who overshare, the ones who boast, the ones who want to impress, the ones who explain their every decision, the ones who want to look superior, the ones who want to prove they're right. They're all revealing their weaknesses, one sentence at a time. Power begins with silence. Dominance begins with observation. Intelligence begins with restraint. You outsmart anyone not by knowing more than them, but by knowing more about yourself than they do. When you are centered, when your mind is still, when your thoughts obey you, you become unusual. And human beings, above all, fear the unusual. The modern world teaches people to react instantly. The ancient world taught people to respond deliberately. One produces confusion, the other produces control. If you want total dominance, in your relationships, in your workplace, in social dynamics, you must overcome the first enemy, your own impulsiveness. The moment another person can predict what you will say, how you will react, or what you will tolerate, they already hold power over you. They don't need to control you. They simply anticipate you. Silence breaks prediction. Stillness breaks patterns. Self-control breaks manipulation. This is the first and most important rule. The less you react, the more they reveal. Let them show their intentions before you reveal your position. Let them speak first. Let them expose their ego. Let them display their insecurity. Let them show how badly they need control. Your calmness is not passiveness. It is surveillance. Your silence is not weakness. It is positioning. Your restraint is not fear. It is strategy. The world belongs to the person who does not rush, because nothing gives you more authority than the ability to wait while everyone else panics. Perception is the invisible battlefield. Most people fight for reality. The wise fight for what others believe is real. Machiavelli knew that the world is ruled not by truth, but by appearances. He didn't teach deception for cruelty's sake. He taught mastery for advantage's sake. And mastery begins with controlling how others perceive you. Every glance, every gesture, every word you allow to leave your lips is an opportunity. A mistake here, a flash of emotion there, and suddenly your opponent has gained insight into your intentions. Every person you interact with is reading constantly, consciously or unconsciously. They are taking notes. They are calculating. They are projecting their assumptions onto your actions. If you want dominance, you must shape those projections before they even form. You must be deliberate in every micro-movement. Observe, the most powerful individuals rarely talk about their plans. They rarely boast about their achievements. They rarely justify their choices. Instead, they allow ambiguity to do the work. They are unreadable, unpredictable, controlled. They know that people fear what they cannot understand. They respect what they cannot categorize. And they are drawn toward those who remain unshaken amidst chaos. Appearance is not vanity. It is armor. It is a strategy. Your presence is a weapon. Your composure is a signal. Your deliberate silence is a tool of influence. Consider this. When someone enters a room and commands attention without speaking, it is not because they are stronger or smarter. It is because they have mastered the art of controlled presence. They radiate authority not through volume, but through poise. And here's the secret. The less you try to impress, the more others are compelled to notice. The louder they try to define themselves, the weaker they appear in comparison. Human beings are conditioned to respond to signals. They interpret confidence, hesitation, and anxiety. If you can regulate what they perceive, your tone, your posture, your facial expressions, you are already 10 steps ahead. Control what they see, and you control what they believe. Control what they believe, and you control how they act. Control how they act, and you control the outcome before the battle even begins. This principle applies everywhere. In business, you do not need to shout about your competence. Demonstrate it through selective action. Let results speak in silence while others scramble to validate themselves. In relationships, you do not need to explain every thought. Allow others to fill the gaps. They will often imagine you more capable, more disciplined, more strategic than you actually are. Settings. You do not need to compete for attention. Your calm presence will draw the focus naturally, making others reveal their own insecurities. Every decision you make about how much to show, how much to hide, and how much to react is a calculation of influence. And influence, not raw strength, is the currency of Machiavellian dominance. A master of perception never overreacts. They never appear rushed. They never disclose urgency or desperation. Instead, they master the rhythm of interaction. They allow tension to build, anticipation to rise, and their adversaries' assumptions to lead them straight into the strategic gaps. Imagine a chessboard. You don't move your pieces to display aggression. You move them to manipulate your opponent's perception. Each advance, each retreat, each subtle threat is calculated not for immediate effect, but to shape belief. Your adversary doesn't just fight the board. They fight the story they tell themselves about you. If you control the story, you control the war. Most people underestimate this power. They assume only action matters. They chase confrontation, conflict, and resolution. But the true strategist knows that victory often begins and ends in perception. The battle is decided long before any words are spoken or swords are drawn. This is the difference between temporary dominance and lasting influence. Temporary dominance comes from force. Lasting influence comes from shaping reality, or at least what others perceive as reality. And the tools are subtle: a measured tone of voice, a pause before speaking, a deliberate absence, a calm demeanor in chaos, strategic ambiguity in answers. Each of these is a thread that weaves a narrative in the minds of others. And as humans, we fill in the gaps with our assumptions, fears, and desires. Often we fill them incorrectly, and that is when advantage turns into mastery. The Stoics teach us that control begins with the self. Machiavelli extends it to others. Control your reactions, and you stop giving away power. Control your actions, and you prevent manipulation. Control your presence, and you influence perception before words are needed. Dominance is rarely about confrontation. It is about the illusion of inevitability. People move as if you have always been in command, not because you forced them, but because your mastery of perception made them believe it themselves. Your ability to shape the narrative silently, is the single most underestimated power in any interaction. Those who respond to appearances rather than truth are trapped. Those who dictate appearances become untouchable. Power is never urgent. The world moves in haste, chasing immediate results, reacting to every provocation, believing action equals influence. The truly powerful know otherwise. They understand that restraint is the ultimate weapon and patience the most underestimated superpower. Machiavelli and the Stoics converge here. One teaches strategy, the other discipline. Together, they reveal a truth often ignored. The strongest never strike first, the wisest never react impulsively. They wait, they observe, they measure, and in that deliberate stillness the battlefield shifts invisibly in their favor. Consider the mechanics. When your adversary pushes, they expect a counter. When your rival glares, they anticipate retaliation. When provoked, most react, exposing cracks in judgment and openings in strategy. The master, however, does not react. He steps back. He lets them overextend. He watches arrogance rise, fatigue set in, and miscalculations multiply. This is patience in action, not idle waiting, not passive surrender, but calculated observation. Time becomes a weapon, sharpened and silent, cutting through impulsive actions like a blade. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must act at the precise moment, not prematurely. The Stoics remind us that self-mastery is the foundation of influence. Combine the two, and you possess a force no one else can anticipate. The benefits of restraint. 1. Clarity over chaos. By resisting the urge to respond immediately, you avoid impulsive mistakes that compromise your position. Your opponent may force themselves into error, and you reap the advantage without moving. 2. Psychological leverage. People panic when others remain calm. The one who can wait out the storm appears invincible, compelling rivals to doubt themselves. 3. Energy conservation. Every reaction expends effort. Every unnecessary confrontation drains resources. By exercising restraint, you conserve mental and emotional energy for the decisive moment. 4. Control of the narrative. Patience allows you to shape perception. Others act in a vacuum of understanding, filling in gaps with their assumptions. When they act on false beliefs, you gain influence without confrontation. The principle is simple. Never give away your internal state. Your fear, your impatience, your excitement, all are tools for the opponent if exposed. Your composure is both shield and weapon. Imagine a negotiation. The impatient buyer offers a rash counter, revealing the pressure they feel. The patient seller does not flinch. They let the buyer speak, dig their own hole, reveal their priorities. When the moment is right, the patient one acts decisively, closing the deal on their terms, often without lifting their voice. Now translate this to social and professional settings. In business, patience isolates weaknesses. Let the competitor reveal overconfidence, misallocate resources, or expose gaps. Your restraint amplifies their errors. In relationships, patience forces projection. People assume your intentions, often inflating your value or underestimating your limits. They act according to their assumptions, not yours. In conflict, patience converts chaos into opportunity. Let them overplay their hand. The moment you act is when all resistance has weakened itself naturally. Strategic patience also intersects with timing. There is a subtle art in knowing when to act, when to withhold, and when to vanish entirely. Acting too soon exposes vulnerability. Acting too late risks opportunity. The perfect moment is never obvious. It is calculated, anticipated, and reserved for those who have mastered observation. Stoic philosophy teaches the mastery of impulses. Machiavelli teaches the leverage of circumstances. When combined, they form a methodology of silent dominance. Observe. Watch every reaction, every pause, every hesitation. Analyze. Determine how perception aligns or misaligns with reality. Wait. Do not respond to every stimulus. Let events unfold. Act. Strike only when the environment is shaped to your advantage. This approach fosters inevitable outcomes. By the time you intervene, The opposition has already acted in ways that favor you. They believe they are in control, yet every step leads them deeper into the strategic framework you have set. Restraint is also the antidote to emotion-driven errors. Impulse is a trap. People who act immediately often sabotage themselves, driven by pride, anger, or fear. Patience neutralizes that advantage. By doing nothing, you often achieve more than those who act recklessly. Practical application. 1. Silence in conversation is not empty. It is calculated. Allow the other person to fill the void with their assumptions. They will reveal more than any question could elicit. 2. Delay decisions in business when stakes are high. The competitor who acts first often reveals their priorities. Your measured response gains leverage. 3. In personal conflict, do not counterattack immediately. Let overreaction expose intent and weakness. Your restraint becomes the mirror reflecting their flaws. Remember, patience is not inaction. It is action deferred. Every moment of restraint is a strategic placement of influence. Each tick of the clock works in your favor. The world will rush, but you remain composed, calculating, and inevitable. Ultimately, mastery of restraint and strategic patience produces two outcomes. Internal dominance. You control your impulses, emotions, and judgment. No one can manipulate what you have mastered internally. 2. External dominance. Others act according to your framework, often without realizing it. You shape events not by force, but by allowing time and perception to do the work. The Stoics knew the power of inner stillness. Machiavelli knew the leverage of perception and timing. Combine both, and you hold an invisible sword. It cuts without blood, controls without threat, and wins before the fight has even begun. The patient strategist understands. He who can wait will inherit the outcome. Every action taken prematurely is a gift to the opponent. Every controlled delay is a trap set for those too impatient to see it. In a world addicted to urgency, speed, and reaction, patience is revolutionary. It is the quiet force that ensures that when you finally move, resistance is weak, opportunities are clear, and victory is complete. By mastering restraint, you do not merely survive conflict, you shape it. You do not react to the world, you sculpt it. You do not chase results. You arrive exactly when your influence is greatest, and others are least prepared to counter it. True power is often invisible. The loudest, most overt displays are for the inexperienced. Masters of influence understand the potency of distance, the subtle advantage of isolation, and the control it grants over both perception and circumstance. Isolation is not loneliness. It is a deliberate withdrawal designed to sharpen awareness, protect autonomy, and magnify leverage. In a world where everyone is entangled in networks, obligations, and constant interaction, the one who retreats strategically gains clarity, unpredictability, and control. Machiavelli emphasized that rulers must appear present, but often act from behind the curtain. Stoicism teaches detachment from external chaos. Merge these principles, and you understand the hidden power of controlled separation. Why distance is power. Observation without interference. When surrounded, one is influenced by the noise of others' opinions, emotions, and biases. By creating distance, you observe clearly, detect patterns, and anticipate moves that remain invisible to the entangled crowd. 2. Mystery breeds influence. Humans are compelled by what they cannot fully see or understand. The more you remove yourself from the immediate spotlight, the more others fill that space with assumptions, fear, and reverence, all of which enhance your influence without a single word. 3. Reduced vulnerability. Isolation is a shield. When others cannot reach you emotionally, socially, or strategically, they cannot exploit your weaknesses. You control access and set boundaries. 3. Autonomy in decision-making. Distance allows for decisions made purely on logic, strategy, and timing, rather than the pressure of peers, rivals, or public opinion. When unbound, you act with precision. Strategic applications of isolation. In conflict, enemies often act based on visibility. The more accessible you are, the easier it is to predict, manipulate, or attack. By intentionally withdrawing, You force them to react to shadows, misperceptions, and uncertainty, a battlefield advantage. In negotiation, being unavailable, intentionally slow to respond, or subtly detached increases perceived value. People rush to fill the vacuum created by your absence, often overcommitting or revealing more than they intended. In leadership, a leader who micromanages and remains hyper-present loses authority. A leader who observes from a strategic distance controls perception, allowing followers to act as if freely while aligning with the overarching plan. In personal life, distance is not coldness, it is selective engagement. Limiting exposure to those who drain energy or manipulate emotions creates space for mental clarity and self-mastery. Isolation is a psychological weapon. Humans fear what they cannot predict or control. Isolation amplifies uncertainty, subtly shifting power toward the one who withdraws. Those who surround themselves constantly with noise may act impulsively. The isolated strategist remains a mystery, unpredictable, and inevitable. Consider this. The less accessible you are, the more your presence matters when you do appear. The more invisible your moves, the more powerful their eventual impact. The fewer your attachments, the more immune you are to manipulation. The Stoics practiced detachment to maintain inner freedom. Machiavelli advocated managing perception carefully, controlling what is revealed. Together, these principles show that strategic distance is not absence. It is influence multiplied. The art of calculated retreat. Withdrawal is not defeat. It is preparation, camouflage, and calculation. The most formidable power moves are often invisible until executed, leaving observers stunned by their precision. Key techniques. 1. Selective engagement. Interact only when it serves strategic purpose. Avoid reactive, unnecessary involvement. 2. Controlled communication. Limit information flow, let silence speak. The more you withhold, the more others project intentions and expectations onto you. 3. Temporal separation. Sometimes distance is measured in time, delaying decisions, responses, or appearances to maximize leverage. 3. Spatial separation. Physical or social removal can create psychological pressure on rivals, competitors, or networks. Contrast framing, presence versus absence. Presence is tangible but predictable. Everyone sees you. Everyone anticipates your next move. Absence, however, is a canvas, and the world paints assumptions, rumors, and fears in your stead. This is the invisible battlefield, where influence thrives without confrontation. By mastering strategic distance, you turn invisibility into leverage. You create scarcity, and scarcity creates value. You operate in a space where the opponent's guesses guide them into your advantage. Pitfalls to avoid. 1. Over-isolation. Total withdrawal can breed irrelevance. The goal is not invisibility for its own sake, but strategic invisibility. Appear enough to maintain awareness, disappear enough to control perception. Do emotional detachment from cowardice. True distance is calculated, not fear-driven. Retreat must be tactical, not reactive. 3. Misjudging timing. Isolation must be purposeful. Leave too early and opportunities slip. Too late, and you are trapped in conflict. Real-world illustration. Consider a political leader or CEO, stepping back from public engagements, allowing the media or competitors to act first, assessing moves in silence. When the moment arrives, the leader's action carries amplified impact. Others believe the leader is reactive, but in reality, every move has been calculated from afar. The world acts in patterns, and strategic distance allows one to step in at the precise moment that maximizes influence and minimizes opposition. The Stoic Machiavellian synthesis. Stoicism teaches the value of detachment, freedom from emotional compulsion and influence. Machiavelli teaches manipulation of perception, controlling what is seen and inferred. Together, they form a principle of calculated absence. Withdraw not to escape but to observe. Separate not to isolate but to influence. Appear not to comply but to command attention. This is the power of isolation. Unseen, underestimated, but unavoidable. In a world addicted to immediacy and visibility, those who strategically distance themselves gain clarity, authority, and inevitability. They shape events not through force, but through absence, allowing the environment and competitors to act into their hands. Master this principle, and you will understand the paradox of dominance. Sometimes the most powerful move is not to move at all,